Hi there, welcome to Elm Colors. I'm Erica. On today's video, I am going to be doing the color along for the month of June in Magical Earth. I have been playing a lot in this book and have been having a lot of fun, but I still have found that my favorite supplies to use are definitely the alcohol markers and my chalk pastels. So that's what we're going to be using today. And we're going to be coloring this adorable page here. I think it's so cute. I'm very excited to play with it. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do in the background, but I definitely want to have a few little light sources. So I think I might do a little bit with chalk first and then come through with some alcohol markers and stuff. So yeah, I think this is going to be really cute. I have this cute little inspiration image here, which I just think is adorable. I like the color palette. I like the way the little turtle looks, and I'm going to try to use those colors over here on my big tortoise too. So yeah, let me grab my chalk pastels first and we'll use that. I'm going to be using the Monkey Soft Pastels just because these are the ones that I am most familiar with and like the most, actually. All right, I'm going to use a cotton pad to apply some color, and I think I'm going to start with the light sources first. So I'm going to grab, sorry, I've been playing around, so I have some stuff on my hands. I'm going to play around with the light sources first, and I think I'm going to use like a really, really pale yellow. So like this, almost like this cream color. I'm going to use that first and just like around the insides of the lanterns and maybe out just a little bit. So yeah, so just adding little circles. I might yellow that up just a little bit. So I'm going to use this, a little bit of this yellow and just go around the outside of that. There we go. That made it a little bit yellow, a little less like orangey color. Next, I think for the background, I'm going to have it be kind of like a darker pink. Is that what I want to do? Now, you know what? I have some of these really cool, like, neutrally brown colors. I'm going to try that. Let's try that and see what we do, how we do with that. They're also kind of, you know, they're all very good, they're very warm colors, so that'll be fun to do in here as well. I want this area inside the shell part to be a little bit lighter, so I'm going to try to avoid that area for now. I might come in with pencils to do that part. We'll see. I just thought this image was so neat. Okay, there's not a ton that I have to do because this is all down here ground, so we're good on that. And remember, while I'm making my giant mess here, I'm going to be coming back in with my pencils and cleaning things up. That doesn't look very brown, does it? That looks very like peachy, which I do like the way that that looks. Just going to give a little bit of color into there. Okay. I'm going to add a little bit more, kind of some of this orangish brown color. Just kind of randomly around the page. All right, and then last one, I think maybe I'll just use that really light peach and see if I can blend those together a little bit more. All right, I like that. And one more color, I'm going to add in just a little bit of pink in a couple of places. All right, so there's that. I'm going to clean this up using my erasers. I'll be using my Derwent electric eraser and this Mono Tombow Mono Zero Tombow eraser just to get in some of the little tiny bits. But I'm going to clean that up real quick and I will be right back with you guys. Okay, I've decided I'm going to add some chalk down to the bottom here too, just because I feel like that'll be a good base for my pencils. So I'm going to, yeah, anywhere where there's grass is going to get a little bit of this. So I'll have to come through and clean up a little bit again, but not a ton. Okay, and then I'm just going to clean up the little rocks and stuff that I've got throughout the ground. Okay, next step is I'm going to go ahead and do all of the branches, all of the vines and tree work with this Ohuhu marker. So this is 170. And yeah, it's just going to be just me filling in. Oop, I probably need to put a backer page in. That was a good catch. I didn't ruin the page underneath. But yeah, I'm just going to be going around and adding this color into all of the branches and vines. So yeah, it's not going to be anything interesting or groundbreaking. It's just filling with color and trying not to make too big of a mess. But yeah, I'm going to go through and do that on all of the branches and I will be back with you guys here in a second. All right, I have all of the branches and work done. I really like the way this is looking. I love this page. I'm so happy that I chose this one to color. All right, I do have a collection of alcohol markers here that I'm going to do a little bit of marker work on. So first thing is I'm going to take this GY42 and I'm going to do all of the leaves that I can see here with this color. That is not going to take too long, but just so you can kind of see, all my leaves are going to be this color. It looks really dark. Hopefully it'll dry a little bit lighter. I thought this was going to be lighter. You know what? I might have to grab another color. Hold on just a second. All right, I'm going to do a combination of that color, so that GY42 and a Copic YG63, and that's going to be specifically, well, you know what, I'm just going to randomly do it. So some of them will be lighter and some of them will be darker. I do like this color a little bit better, but I will have a few more leaves around with this color as well, but I think the majority are probably going to be this YG63. I like this color. So yeah, so I'm going to head off screen and do that really quickly. And what are those leaves? Okay, so there are like different shapes of leaves here too. So maybe I could just do the different shapes in the different colors. That might be what I do. Okay. I'm gonna, I'm gonna go off screen, finish that up, and I will be back with you guys here in a second. Okay, got the two different green leaves done. So you can see that I've just kind of spread the darker green out around the outsides and then have the lighter green kind of towards the insides of the shell, quote unquote shell. Okay, so now I have a few colors that I'm gonna try to put on to my cute little tortoise here. So I'm gonna use G94. And this is going to be his, like the top of his head and his legs. Yeah, so his underbelly is going to be a different color. His, like the little bit of his chest here is going to be a different color, but some of his neck is going to be this green too. So there might be a little bit of blending here. So I'm going to share the majority of this with you just so you guys can see how I am approaching this. I know my little inspiration image has different color around his eyes, but I'm going to go ahead and just leave that the same color as his body. So there's that. I'm going to do the top part of his neck. Let's see, how do I want to do this? So we'll have this part all be green. And then all of this here. Try not to get it on the ladybug there. Yeah, and then this here, that works. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do his feet. I'll be right back with you guys. Okay, got that part done. Next, I'm using a Prismacolor alcohol marker. It's PB192. This is an older marker, but I just think it has a good color. Like it's a nice kind of light green color that I'll be able to add like pencil work to kind of get that multicolor look. So I'm just going to do the whole thing that color, kind of bring that color down into the neck a little bit. And then for the neck, I'm going to use, I believe this one. So it's a YR20. And I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna color the whole thing. I'm just gonna grab like little bits and pieces. So I'm like, especially in the shadow areas, I'm gonna add that color, but I'm gonna do a little bit more work with that with my pencil. And then under here will all be this color under the shell. And then on the bottom of the tortoise as well. All right, I like that. And then for the sides of the shell, I'm using YR240. This is an Ohuhu marker. And it probably looks a little wonky, but this is gonna change dramatically as we add our pencil work on top of it. All right, for the rocks down here, I'm gonna use GG3. This is an Ohuhu marker. So I'll go through and just get those shaded in or colored in real quick. All right, I have a couple of colors pulled for my other things in here. So the ladybugs are gonna be this R120. This is gonna be a crazy color, but I promise it will look good once I get the shading done on it. So all three ladybugs are gonna be this color. All right, there are a couple different kind of flowers that I'm gonna say are different. So like these ones here and this one up here I think are the same, and then these big ones are a little different. So for these ones and this one up here, I'm gonna use YR70. This is another crazy looking color, but I think once I get shading on it, it'll be all right. I just wanted a little bit of an orange color. Okay. And then this, I'm going to use this real light RV 260 for the other flowers. Okay, and then for the girl's dress, I'm going to use YR30. So a lot of these are from my pastel set of Ohuhus. All right, for her skin tone, I'm going to use YR209. And her hair is going to be pink and it's R12. Okay, so there is our marker base done. I'm going to be doing some metal work with my pencils on the lanterns, so that'll be a part of the video for sure. I'll do a couple of the lanterns. Wow, they're all different, aren't they? All different lanterns. Maybe I should do like a gold one and a bronze one. I don't think I want silver, but maybe a couple different golds, maybe like a wrought iron one. No, I don't want anything that dark. Maybe we'll just do a couple different golds. Like a brass, rose gold kind of colored one and a gold. That sounds good. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna grab some pencils and we're gonna start working just on this background down here. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, so for this little background down here, I'm going to zoom you in a little bit so we can see a little bit better. There we go. So I am going to use Black Widow pencils, which I haven't used in quite a while. I've got a couple of different greens that I thought we could use. So I have Forest, Apple, and Washed Green, and these are going to be the greens I'm going to use here. So I'm going to very lightly add in a little bit of the Forest, just barely on the page, and then use the apple to blend it out. And then the washed green on top. And that's going to be kind of the progression through the entire background, just flipping back and forth between those pencils. Try to darken up the forest anywhere where like there's overlap of grasses and things like that. Black Widows. I'm going to use these kind of like a layering pencil for sure today, just to make sure that I get the coverage that I want instead of trying to force it. Like you want to start with a lighter pressure and then work your way up to heavier pressure so that you're able to add the layers, so you're able to get the color to where you want it to be. All right, and then these little guys up here. Okay, and then to add a little bit of extra detail in the background, I'm going to just kind of add a few more strands with the apple color to the background. There we go. All right, and then again, anywhere where things overlap, you're gonna darken up the shadows there. And for some of the highlighted, like I might come in with a paint marker later on to try to bring back the tips of some of these, just so they're nice and so you get that highlight in there, because that really does help sometimes when you're coloring. Okay, and then for the rock here, I've got a couple different colors, which I might grab another one. So far, I've got Shadow and Castle, and it's just because I want to add a little bit of brown and some warmer gray. Let me grab one more color. Okay, so I've got the coal, and then I have my white Prismacolor too. So I'm going to start with the coal. This is the darkest color, and just kind of figure out where I want my shadows to be. So when you have multi-layered, like the rocks look like this, you just kind of go with whatever feels right to you. Some parts of the rock can be darker, some parts can be lighter, depending on how you see it. The nice thing about the alcohol marker base is it really does kind of help so that I don't have to work quite as hard on getting some shading down on my rock. And then I'm going to add a little bit of brown in some places, and that'll basically be the rock. So it's not super detailed, but there's enough in here that I think that'll be good. All right, so yeah, and I'll hold this up again just so you guys can see that a little bit closer. So I did this little section right here, so you can see a little bit of brown on the rock. You can see the different levels of green, or different layers of green in the grass strands, and that's how the whole background's going to go all the way across. So I'm going to head off screen and take care of that, and then when I come back we will move on to the next section and this will be all done. So I will talk to you again here in a second. Okay, there is the ground all done. I do like the way that turned out. I'm going to hold it up a little closer so you can see some of the rocks. I did ended up adding some of the green that I used on the grass into some of the rocks as well, but I just think it adds an interesting touch. So my next step is going to be, I'm going to bring in this Cezanne pencil. This is number 20, and I'm going to use this to shade in my branches. So I'm going to use that and probably my white Prisma, which I'll just kind of show you really quick here. We'll do this little section. I've already used a little bit there. I might bring in another darker color. Give me a second for that. Yeah, I'm going to try to use number 20 and number 59, and then add in my Prismacolor here and there. But you can kind of see right here, I've already started to add in some of the shadows. So it's basically just going around anywhere where there is supposed to be a little bit of a shadow, adding that little bit in, and then you can blend it out with this other color. And then Also come in with the white and add in some highlights here and there. And if they get too white, you can always come back over top of it with that same color really lightly and just tone it down. But that way it gives different, gives the branch some dimension. So yeah, I'm going to go through, do all the branches like that. That's going to take a little while. But when I get back, I am going to hold off on a couple of the branches around these lights because I kind of want to show you what my plan is for that. But all the rest of the branches, I'm going to head off screen and take care of those. So I will be right back with you guys. The branches are all done except for this little bit in the corner here where I'm going to show you how I kind of do the highlights. So let me zoom in on that. So anywhere where the lantern light might be reflecting a little bit, I've kind of tried to work in a bit of, I've either left it a little bit, I didn't apply the alcohol marker all the way on, or I've used my white Prismacolor to add that in, to add in the white area so I can add some yellow. So you can see that on this part right here, these ones over on this side here, you can see the little bits of yellow on there, and that's just using the Prismacolor white over top of the alcohol marker and trying to get some of the yellow on top of the white. So in this area here, I did leave some alcohol marker off. I didn't cover this whole area, but I'm going to go ahead and go over it with the white, and I'm going to use my yellow to kind of add that in. And so right here I did too much, so I can add a little bit more white and then go over top of that with the yellow. But yeah, so then that just kind of adds to a little bit of highlights. Now, if I wanted to get really into it, I could add more, you know, on this lantern, I could have yellow everywhere. Over on this lantern, I could have it reflecting on this branch. So it's just all depends on how much light you want to reflect. I don't need a ton because it's not quite super dark. So I feel like it's not going to reflect a whole lot, and there's not going to be super harsh light, you know, casted sources. What I am going to do here really quick is on the branches that are on the back side of the lantern. So I have, I think this one and this one up top here. Those two have branches that kind of wrap around behind the lantern. So I'm going to use my lighter brown. So that's number 20 from Cezanne. And just barely add in a little bit of shadow. And then I'm going to use my yellow to add a little bit of glowy effect on there. And then I'm going to use my Prismacolor cream color and go over, just kind of go over that. Yeah, and that's just because I know that the light will be reflecting on the back side of the branch. So that's why they're yellow there. All right, so I am going to move on to the, let's work on the turtle next. We'll start with this big guy. All right, I'll be right back with you. Okay, so now it's time to work on the tortoise. I have a few colors pulled. I'm not sure if these ones are going to be the ones I stick with, but this is what I'm going to start with. So I have opal green, Fang from the original Black Widow set. I have green grass, leaf green, and washed green. I'm going to try to use those to do his skin. So let's see how we go with this. Let's just start with this little foot. I'm going to zoom you in. Okay, so I'm going to start again with my darker color. And this is a lighter pressure layered coloring. Okay, so let's start with that one. Come in with the Fang and blend that out a little. I'm trying not to completely cover up the base layer that I put down, but it's okay if I get some of that covered because I don't think I want the grass green. I'm going to switch to the leaf green now. The base layer really is just to have that undercoat basically on the page so that you don't have to worry too much about white space. Like you can just color and get the colors that you want on the page. Okay. I like the washed green, but I think I'm going to bring in another like yellowy green. I'm going to try this zombie color and see if that's pretty good. Again, not covering everything up, just kind of bringing a little bit of that greenish yellow color in, and then I'll use the wash green in the lightest areas to reserve because that's really, really close to the original color. It's just a little bit lighter. So yeah, I think I like that. I might bring in just a little bit more brown. So what color is this? Castle? Let's try some castle. So again, just in a couple of spots on the turtle, just to help with the skin tone there. Okay, I like that. Let's continue down the leg and see how that looks. I do like that. Again, working in lighter layers so that I can continue to add color as I go. I haven't worked with black widows in a really long time, and I'm glad I picked them up for this page. It's making me pretty happy to work with these. I used to love these pencils and used them all the time, but they did hurt my hands a little bit after a while, so I had to find different ways to use them, and I think using them over an alcohol marker base in these books is going to be a good way to use them. Okay, so where the vine wraps around here too, we need to create a little bit of a shadow under that. So I'm going to use this darkest opal green to create a shadow underneath that too. And I'm going to blend that out a little bit with the zombie. There we go. Yeah, okay, I think I got all of the really dark areas that I want. Okay, all right, so what's the next color? Fang. I have been coloring a lot lately, so I'm having to wear my little brace there that you can see on my hand. It's like a little compression sleeve, so it just kind of helps, I don't know, give a little bit more support when I'm doing all of these repetitive motions. But you know, I love coloring too much to stop, so it's just gonna be what it is. Hopefully when I'm, you know, 80, I'm not like cursing my younger self being like, because I can't move my hands. But we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that as I age, I'll be able to adapt my coloring style, you know, to the way that we age. Like, I feel like I'll be able to, hopefully, you know, adjust color grips or use different supplies, or, you know, I just want to keep coloring. As long as my eyes don't go, I think that would be the only stopper point for me. Okay, a little bit of this brown in a couple places. I'm not sure that got as yellowy green as I want. I'm going to try this olive green. This is almost like a neon. Yeah, that helps a little. That brings back a little bit of that yellowy green color. All right, so what do we think? We like that? I think that looks okay. Again, I'm going to add in some shadows underneath the branches where they're overlapping. I might actually bring the brown in there too and just help to give that shadow just a little bit of a different color. Okay. All right, I think that's good. I think for his little nails, they're going to be like a weird kind of old, old greeny, I don't know. like just a weird color. And I feel like the Black Widow pencils are perfect for this kind of weird color. Okay, so I'm going to try a combination of Zombie, Passion, and Poison and see how that goes. So I just want a tiny little bit of this green. Barely any. Okay, and then I'm going to use the Poison. Is it Poison? No, this one's Passion. Passion to blend that out just a little bit. And then I'm going to use the Poison, which is this really cool, just like, almost like a creamy green. I don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, that's the one reason I like the Black Widow so much, is because they have so many different cool color palettes. Or color choices. Color palettes. Just really interesting colors all through the set. Okay, I think that's going to be it for my... Yeah, so I'm going to do all the legs the same. Let's work on the face a little bit together. Okay, same colors for the top part of his head here. So not going to be as many super dark shadows, except for like maybe under his eyes. And then like the wrinkles underneath here. Okay, next color is the fang. Again, I'm just kind of going along anywhere where Joseph's drawn in some of those shadow marks. I'm going to add in a little bit of this color too. And also expand outward from where I've added the shadows with the opal. Okay, let's move into the leaf green color. All right, next no, that's not the right color, is it? No, we'll use the zombie color, I think, next. Yeah, these colors were a good combo with that base layer too, because I can leave a few little bits exposed of his skin and not worry too badly about it. All right, and then I'm going to add in the washed green, like an overall kind of blender and good color to go in the lighter areas there. To kind of reserve those lighter areas a bit. Okay. I might try to darken up just a little bit. I'm going to make sure that my dark color is nice and sharp. I just want to get in some of those really dark areas and really darken that up. Same over here. That's another thing, is if you look at your page and you're like, something doesn't feel right, try to darken up the shadows a little. Sometimes that's exactly what the page needed, and you just were, you know, a little too worried to go in super dark right away, but that's really kind of sometimes what it needs. Okay, I'm just gonna go right around the eye here with this dark color too. All right, I like Mr. Turtle's face. I'm going to add a little bit of the brown, but not very much on his face. Just a tiny bit here and there. Yeah, you can barely see some of that brown, but I wanted to have it there just to kind of reinforce all the colors. Okay, I like his little head and his little foot. Let's, on his, like these lighter scales here, I'm going to mix together a few of the colors that we've already used. So definitely the washed green is going in there. Let's see what else I have here. We can use some of the zombie probably. And then maybe this poison color. We'll try those three. If I need a little bit more yellowy green, I can bring in some of the passion too. But I'm going to start with these three, I think. So we're going to start with the zombie since that's the darkest. And I'm just going to pick, you know, I mean, Joseph has kind of drawn in a little bit of shadows on here. So you can start there. or you can kind of create your own thing, whatever you want to do. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the washed green, I think, next, just to see. It's really close to the base layer. All right, so let's try some of this Passion. Bring in that color in a couple of spots. Maybe not the whole, like all of the little bumpy bits, but yeah. And then use the what is this, Poison. A little bit over top of that. Okay, and then I do see a couple spots that maybe should be a little darker. So I'll darken things up a little bit here and there with the zombie color. I'm not thrilled about that. Something's off. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna use this color called Green Tea. And this is like a yellowy brownish color. I like that a little bit better. I think maybe it's the zombie color, so maybe just use a little bit of less of that when I'm doing these. It's like a very light touch of that, maybe. It's kind of hard when it's my darkest color that I've chosen. Okay, let's go straight to the Passion this time. See if we can make it look just a little bit different. I don't want it to be too different because I want it to still look like these other parts, but okay. A little bit of washed green. I like that. A little bit of Poison in here now. Okay, and then some of this Green Tea. Maybe I need something a little darker than that. Okay, so I have Charcoal Green. Let's see if that kind of mutes it down a little bit. I'm gonna try to go in the shadowed areas with that color. That's a little bit better. It just kind of mutes the color a little bit, so it's not quite as bright. And that's kind of, I think, what was throwing me, is it's a little bright. His little scaly bits are just a little bright. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to do the rest of the little scaly bits, this back portion of his neck and leg and his back leg, and then I will be back with you guys here in a minute. All right, there we go. There is the turtle's or tortoise's body done, except for his little chest and the shell part, which we're going to do next. So I'm going to grab a few of the colors that I've already been using. So I've got, let's see, I've got this Poison color I'm going to use on here. Some of this Green Tea, I think. A little bit of the Castle. A little bit of, let's try some of the Leaf Green and some of the darker areas. So I'm going to try that. So let me zoom in on this part here. Sorry, the last one was... His head was so far down in the screen, I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing and kind of just coloring. So I'm going to just do a tiny little bit of the Leaf Green and some of the really dark areas. But I want his chest to be pretty light in tone, but I want it to match the rest of his body. So I'm just going to add a little bit of green. And I've got more green like coming down from the top too. I might use a little bit of the washed green for that. Yeah, I'm going to add this Leaf Green in all the darkest areas there. Let's use, let me get a little bit of this up here too. Okay, and I'm going to use a little bit of this washed green just to bring that green color down into the neck a little bit. Okay, and then I've got like this base color is almost like a peachy color, but I'm gonna lean more into like the brownish tones just a little bit more. So I've got, let's use this Green Tea. So this is like a yellowy greenish brown. It's just the weirdest color, but I think it's going to be perfect for what I'm wanting to accomplish here. You can see a lot of the areas where I left it white when I used the marker earlier. Okay, we're going to try to go in. I'm just going to go ahead in with the poison color. And you can see, so I'll color here on this white section. You can see basically what that color is. It's just like a super, super light poisony green color. For lack of better descriptors, because I'm out of descriptors today, I think. Okay, I'm going to grab the brown, and we're just going to darken up the castle color that I have. Darken up a few of these spots. Just, I really want those to be, because his neck is so wrinkly, and I do want those to stand out pretty well. And like these little spots that he has, I want those to be darker. I could add a few more spots if it's not, you know, as dark as I want. I really had fun. Oh, I did add in some of this castle color on his face as well. Just a tiny little bit to warm up some of the greens a little. Okay, let me get another color. I need one more color, but I'm not sure which color yet. Okay, I'm bringing in suede to see if maybe that will be the right. So while the poison gave me a nice green color, it didn't really blend everything together very well. So I think where these spots are, I am going to add a few more in. I'm going to come in with a white Prismacolor too here in a little bit to add in a few little white dots. Yeah, hopefully you can see that. All right, I like that. I just don't feel like that's getting as dark as I want. So let me grab, let's try this charcoal. Nope, that's not it. You know what? I'm just going to grab this coal that we used on the rocks earlier. And just really darken up a couple of those shadows. Okay, definitely an interesting color combination going on there. Let's try a little bit of passion. Add a little bit of passion in right over top of some of those brown spots. Okay. I think I like it. It's meant to be kind of a lighter color than his skin anyway, so yeah, I like that. All right, I need to add it. I got a little bit of a white spot there that I need to fix up. Okay, well, let's work on his shell. Okay, so for this one, I need to, well, I'll just leave you right there because I can work on a little bit down here and a little bit up here and kind of show you what my plan is. So pencil colors, I have mud, dark chocolate, castle, and fawn. Those are the four colors that I'm going to be using for this part. Okay, so again, starting with the darkest color, we're going to start with the dark chocolate and just add it into all of the shadowy bits. Okay, next I'm going to use the mud to blend that out a little. Next I'm going to use the castle. This is a nice, really warm brown color. Not too dark, not too light, kind of right in the middle there. Okay, I'm going to use the fawn to blend that all kind of together. And this color is really close to that color underneath. So yeah, I like that. I want to darken up just a little bit under these areas here and kind of where each section is. Okay, yep, like that. I'm gonna add in some shadow with the coal color. Just underneath like the tree branches and stuff. Yeah, okay, so there we go. I do like that. Maybe a little bit more castle color too. I'm leaning heavily on this castle for some reason. I don't know. It seems like it's a good choice for this page today. All right, yeah, so that is how all of the edges are gonna be. I'm gonna use the same color combo for underneath as well. Maybe a little bit lighter, so maybe I won't use the mud color. I'll just do the dark. Let's just do this little bit right here so I can show you. I'm gonna do the dark chocolate very lightly. Again, kind of in all of the darker areas, and we'll use the mud. Okay, and then the fawn color. Come back in with the dark chocolate, like really underneath. Yeah, that's still a little bit dark. Let me see if I can grab the oyster color. And maybe that'll lighten everything up a little. It does a bit, not much. I don't love that. It's okay. Yeah, so it's gonna look really similar to the outer rim. But the other thing that I can do is on this part here, I can come in and add some green every once in a while too. So maybe some of this green tea would be fun to add in different places. Just to create some variety, I'm going to add a little bit of leaf green, mostly in the darker areas. Oh yeah, I like that much better. Yeah, I'm going to use this leaf green or this green tea up in here too. There we go. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So yeah, that is going to be how I do the rest of this whole shell, and then the little bits of undergrowth here and the one down over here. So yeah, I'm going to head off screen and take care of that, and I will be back with you guys here in a second. Okay, so my tortoise is done. I've got the branches that create like the top part of the shell all colored in. I have his skin all done. The only thing that I will be coming back in to do is I'm going to be using the my white Posca to add some dots here and there, which I'll show you a little bit of that. I'm also going to use a black pencil to just really darken up his eyes and his little nostrils there. Okay, yeah, and then I'll show you some dots. So I'm just going to add a few in. Well, are you working? I think that's working out, yeah. So just a few randomly on his skin here. Now these might not stay completely white either. I might come back over top with another pencil just to dull the color a little bit. Like I don't want it to be super bright white, but we'll see how they dry. So I liked it on his face a little bit. I might do a little, yeah, just like really tiny little dots here. Those ones will definitely, I'll darken those up a little bit, but I don't want to mess with them right now because I don't want to completely mess it up. But yeah, I'm just going to dot a little bit more randomly on his skin. All right, so on some of the dots, once they dry, once that paint dries, I'm going to add in, just take my green, I don't know what this, leaf green, any green really, and just going to run right over top of those white dots, especially in the darker areas where the white is, just to tone it a little bit back. I should probably zoom in. So for example, I'll show you right in here, just kind of go right over the top, and it just tones it down just a little bit. Like I still want that lighter color showing through, but I don't necessarily want it to be stark white on the darker green. Another thing I just noticed is I need to add the shading for this ladybug. Okay, All right, shadow for that is done. Let's see, anything else that I need to take care of on my turtle? I am gonna add some white dots on the edges of his shell too. Okay, I think next we're gonna work on the leaves and the flowers here. I feel like then that will be like a complete thing, and then we can work on the other elements after that. So yeah, so for the leaves, similar colors than that we've been using. For the darker leaves, I think I'll use, let's see, leaf green and forest. Probably just those two. And then for the lighter ones, let's use some of the, use a little bit of the fang and a little bit of the, and the grass green. We'll try those two on this, on the other one. So I'll zoom in again and we'll work on a couple of leaves here. So this is gonna go pretty quickly. So I'm gonna take, on the darker ones, I'm gonna take the forest and just kind of add the shadow. So I would do like I normally do with my leaves. So I do along the center line and then out towards the opposite edge. And then I'm gonna blend that out a little bit. And that'll be just a quick shading of the leaves. It's simple, but it is tedious because there are a lot of leaves. So it'll take me a minute to finish those, but it won't be, it's not like it's hard to do. Okay, so there's the darker color. So the lighter color leaves here, I've got the opal and the grass green. And you can see that that just gives it a little bit of a different color. You know, and if I decide that I want to come in with some to warm it up, give it a little bit more of a warmer, because that is a pretty cool green color, I can bring in like this passion color and just add that in. And that'll give it just a little bit more green, or greeny, like a little bit more warm green. So yeah, let me do a couple more of these leaves. Like I said, same kind of repetitive motion over and over. Just kind of gets a little boring after a little bit. For the highlights on this one, let me see how the white looks on that. I don't love the white. So probably not white, maybe the cream. Let's see. Yeah, I like the cream. So I'll probably use the cream highlight for those darker leaves. So yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna be doing for the next, I don't know, half hour, 20 minutes. Get all these little leaves colored. But yeah, so I'm gonna go off screen, take care of that. When we come back, we will work on some of the flowers together. So I will talk to you again here in a second. Okay, all the leaves are done. I did want to show you really quickly. I'm using a very light yellow Tule Art paint pen on anywhere where there might be a little bit of highlights. So I'm going to zoom in and show you. So for example, where there's a little bit of highlight that I've already done with my yellow pencil earlier, I'm going to add just a little bit brighter highlight with this paint pen, just so you can really see that that is lit up. And if I get, you know, too much on there a little bit, I can use my finger to wipe some off. Okay, so we're going to start on the flowers. So I have a couple different color combos I'm going to use on these ones that are a little more orange. I'm going to use Ruby Rose and Sherbet. And then for the pink ones, I'm going to use Deep Red, Fairy Floss, and the Fudge colors. So let's start with these orangey ones here first. So the Ruby Red's going to just go in the very darkest spots. I did forget to do the greenery on this one. I just noticed that. And then we're going to blend that out with the Sherbet. And then I will use my cream Prismacolor to add any highlights on there. And I'm going to use this mud color just on the inside of this. There we go. Yeah, so same thing like on these flowers down here, same color combo, same everything. I've only used this orangey color a couple of times, but I feel like that'll be a good combo to use for the shading. Again, just come in with the cream Posca to add in any highlights. Okay, so on these pink flowers, I'm going to be using deep red first, again, in anywhere where there is darker shadow. I'm very gently using this color. I'm not pushing hard at all because that's going to be you don't want to push too hard with this. Okay, so just for those petals there, then use the fairy floss to blend that out. Okay, and then I'm going to use the fudge color to blend it out even more, add just a little different tone of pink in here. This is a little bit more of a warm pink than a cool pink. And again, use the cream color on the open areas. There we go. So that's what the other those flowers are going to look like. I'm trying to see if there's any areas, like maybe up here, it would look like that lantern is touching some of these flowers a bit. So just add in shadows or highlights where you think that there might be some. But yeah, let me finish this flower, and then all of these other flowers are going to be the exact same color combo, and just, you know, coloring in where the shadows have already been drawn in for you. Remember using a very light hand with that first red color too, because it is a pretty bright, dark color. But as you blend it out with these other pinks, it really helps it not be so different from the rest of the page. Okay, and then a little bit again with the cream. There we go. Yep. Let's see, what do I want to do for the center of the flower here? I'm not sure on that one yet. Definitely want to hold on to some of these colors though, because I'll probably use similar colors on the ladybugs too. So for the center of this, let's just do a couple of browns. I don't feel like the yellow, maybe. Well, we'll see. Let's just do, I'm going to do the dark chocolate around the outside, a little bit of the castle on the inside, and then, yeah, we'll just do a dot of yellow on there. But there we go. That's going to be my flower color for all of it. So I'm going to head off screen, finish all the flowers on the page, and then we'll move on to our next element. Okay, flowers are all done. I really like the way that those look. I think that was a good color choice. So now we're going to work a little bit on the background and around the lanterns. So I've grabbed a couple of colors. So I have gold from my Black Widow's candy and then my cream Prismacolor. I'm going to try to, especially in this area, just create a little bit more of a glow around the lantern. Doesn't have to be like super detailed or anything. I just want a little bit more. So yeah. So this gold isn't far off from that cream color actually. That's pretty good. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to use the gold very much anymore. So I'm going to use this candy. And this is like a peachy pink kind of color. And I'm going to just try to blend that back into what's already in here. So yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and fill up the entire center section with this candy color. And then I might add a little bit more color, maybe a little bit of an orangey rust color, something like that to match the outside. Okay, so I feel like that blends in pretty well with the outside colors. So let's focus on this lantern. I'm going to do the same thing where I bring in the cream and the yellow, or cream and the gold. So I'm just going to highlight the area around. And then this isn't going to come out super far, this gold color, because it's not really like, it's not super dark. And you'll notice most of the stuff that I like gave light highlights to are things that are real close to the lanterns. I'm not really trying to have this be like a huge, have these be like direct light sources or anything. So, and then I can also continue to bring in a little bit more of this pink around some places. So I can just kind of add it in very lightly a few places and then use that candy color to blend it out. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do around all the lanterns. I'm going to go off screen and take care of that real quick, and I will be right back with you guys. Okay, so we're going to color this lantern together, and then I'm going to use similar techniques on all the other ones, even though each lantern is a little different. I'm just afraid we're going to run out of time if I try to go through every single lantern. So anyway, the inside of the lantern, I'm going to use olive brown along the top and the edges. And just kind of create like a glow effect around the light here in the center, or on this one, the lights. So there's an olive brown. I'm going to use the mustard gold, or mustard yellow, or just mustard, whatever it's called. And then a little bit of the gold there to just try to blend it into the background. And then I'm also going to use the mustard on the tops of the flames. And then a little bit of a white dot at the center of the flames with my Posca. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I'm going to do anything with the candles. I feel like those could probably just stay, so maybe I'll just add a little bit of shading to a couple of them. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to do. And then the wicks are also just going to be a little bit of brown. So that's going to create the inside of the lantern. Now I'm just trying to decide what to do around the outside. I think I want to have metal lanterns, but I don't want each of them to be the same. Okay, that's what I'm doing. Holy cow. All right, so yeah, so actually the two big lanterns are going to be the same color palette. So we're going to try to create a kind of rusty gold kind of color from what I've got here. Okay, I'm going to try this. So I've got mud, castle, candy, and cream. So we're going to try this and see how I like this combination for the metal. So again, you're going to start with your darkest color, and thankfully Joseph has kind of marked out anywhere where there would be a darker color, which is lovely. It's always so helpful when coloring metal, because I'm not really ever sure where to put the highlights and the shadows and stuff. It's mostly a guessing game for me, so when it's drawn in, it's just like so much more helpful. Okay, so yeah, let's just color this side of the lantern. You guys can see what I'm doing. So with the castle now, we're just going to expand a little bit from that. You want to make sure that you leave highlight areas. That's the biggest thing to remember for coloring metal, is you need that high contrast between your shadows and your highlights. Okay, so next we're going to come in with this candy color. And that's going to create like a bronzy kind of, or like a rose gold almost. It's kind of looking like more of a rose gold. Okay, and then I'm going to use the cream. Kind of blend all that together, leave a bunch of highlights where I can. This little section here I feel like is inset, so we're going to do a little bit of shadow around the outside edges. I feel like it needs to be darker, so some of the areas need to be darker. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the black and darken up some of these shadows. And again, using a very light touch. But I feel like that's going to give it the nudge that it needs. Maybe adding a little bit more to this area here. A little bit more of this color as well. And you can kind of, you know, look at your work and see what you think and go from there. But again, very high contrast is the key for metal. Okay, yeah, so that's the color palette I'm going to use for the bronze colored lanterns. So it's going to be the two biggest lanterns are going to be this color combo. Let me just do one more little bit here just so you can see. So I'll just do these little, a few of these little petals. So it's the same thing, just cycling through the colors I've pulled. Trying to be aware that you need to leave a little bit of a highlight. And then we'll come in with this. And then just darken up things with the black a little bit more. And then add a little bit more of the castle color in, I think. So I hope that's giving the metallic look that hope you guys are seeing that, like reading that as metallic, because that's how I'm seeing it right now. Yeah, okay, so yeah, all of them will have, or the two big lanterns will have that color combo. Let's do these little wrought iron ones. So we're gonna start with, I've got coal, I have shadow. Of course, the black is gonna have to come in with this. I'm gonna add in browns again with the castle, and then I'm gonna try to blend things a little bit with the cream. I'm gonna start with the coal just to see where that ends up putting us. I feel like that's gonna be a nice grayish tone, but I wanna have room to add in my my brown so it looks a little bit rusty. Maybe I should just add that now before it gets too colored. Yeah. So the bars that are crossing on the other side, so like the ones like this one back here and this one here, they're going to stay gold because they're reflecting that light that's coming from the lantern. So that's, yeah, just in case you're wondering why those are not colored, that is why that is. Okay. Again, I'm just adding in the shadows where there should be some shadows. I am trying to leave some highlights, but I'm not sure that that's going so well. I think there should be a little bit of a highlight there, I think. So I'm just going to have to kind of create it with that cream color. Yeah, and then I'm going to use the black to darken up any of the areas that need a little bit more dark. I don't love this so much, but it's kind of what it's going to be now. I don't know if that looks rusty or if it looks just like calico. All right, I do want to finish this the top of this here, just so I can see if this is the right way to go, because if not, then I'm going to try to erase it all and start again. But I think this is just going to have to be it, actually. Okay, so that is that lantern done. It is okay. It's not my favorite, but I am going to do the other one that's crossed like this. So this one here is also going to be brought iron. So yeah, we'll do those two color palettes, repeating on the other side, and then the gold one down here. So I'm going to try to do a brass. Okay, I'm going to try these colors and see how we do. So I'm going to start with mud. I'm just going to do this little circle here and see if this is the right one. So there's mud. We're going to do a little bit of the castle color, then mustard. Then the banana, and then cream. So yeah, I like that combo. That's going to be a good one. Yeah, so again, we got mud here, then some castle, then the mustard, then the banana. Yeah, okay, so that will be the color combo for all the gold work on this little lantern. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna finish this lantern and the other lanterns, and when I come back, hopefully that will all be good to go. All right, so I will talk to you again here in a second. All right, next step. I really like the way this is looking. We're gonna finish it. It's been a couple days since I recorded last, so hopefully I remember. I think we just have the ladybugs left and the girl. So let's get to it. Let's do the ladybugs. Let me zoom you in. We're gonna do this ladybug first since she's got her wings out. And I am going to use a gray alcohol marker to base the body. I'm going to use the GG5. So it's a lighter gray color, but it's not super light. But this will give me enough wiggle room to add in highlights and shadows too. So yeah, I'm going to cover the entire body with this color. All right, so to shade, we're just going to use some black and white. I'm not going to do anything crazy with that. I'm just going to go around the bottom part of the body there. I am going to add a little bit of yellow in. I'll do that with my paint marker though. So this will be pretty shadowed right here. And a little bit here. And then like this side of the body is just going to have more shadow on it because the lantern is right here. So especially like behind the head. Each of these segments will have a good amount of shadow. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I think that'll work. All right, so let's get the legs. And like this side of the head as well. I'm going to use my cream to add in a little bit of highlight where I think maybe the lantern might be glowing on it. Just a tiny little bit, and then I'll darken that up a little bit more with this yellow. So I'm just barely touching. There we go. I am going to add a couple little highlights into the eyes. Okay. And then the shell, I'm going to use similar colors that I've been using throughout. So we're going to use deep red. Was this a color I used earlier? I think so. Deep red and the sherbet, and well, let's just try those two and see what happens. So I'm going to start with the deep red. And again, just kind of do the outside edges around the outside, and then blend in from that a little bit. Do the same with the sherbet, and that's almost the same color as that base layer of marker. So that should blend in pretty quickly, and then we're gonna just add a little bit of cream highlight in the center there. And then I am going to use white Posca to do the dots. Okay, we're gonna let those dry a little bit. I'm gonna work on the wings. I think I'm gonna have to bring in another color, I believe. Because I am going to add, you know what? I take that back. I'm gonna use this pink. I'm gonna use some pink on this. Yeah, I like that. Just want to add, I just didn't want it to be so red. I wanted it to be a little bit more pink. So yeah, I think the wings, no, I'm not going to bring another color. I'm just going to use this pink. So this is Fairy Floss. And I'm just going to kind of add a little bit of shade. This is not going to be like a full pink wing. It's going to be mostly white. Actually, we'll do cream, mostly cream. A little hints of pink in it. All right, I like that wing. So yeah, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and then color the other ladybugs, and that will be it. We'll move on to the girl. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, there are the ladybugs done. Now I know ladybugs normally have black spots, but I wanted to do white, and I'm going to add a few little dots in there too. So just randomly add a few little dots just because I like the way that looks. And this is a giant fantasy book, and I can do what I want, right? All right, so those are my ladybugs done. I like them. You can see that I added a little bit of highlight to like the underside of this one and a little bit on the top. I didn't really add any there because the only light is from that, and I don't feel like it's emitting too much light, so I didn't add any super big highlights to that one. Okay, the girl is last, and then we're done, guys. Let me zoom in on her. Okay, let's figure out what we're gonna do with her. I need to get some colors for her skin. She's gonna have a darker skin tone, but I don't want it to be too crazy, like in the wrong colors, the wrong shades. I want it to match the base layer that I put in here. So I need my mahogany. Hopefully I've got that handy. Okay. I feel like that's gonna be a good color. Probably the castle. We'll use a little bit of the castle. That's not the right color. This one. Yeah, we'll start with those two and see how we do. Okay, so yeah, let's start with her skin. So mahogany first. I'm not going to go into too much detail because she's a tiny little character. So the mahogany is the darker color, so definitely going to use that in all of the shadowed areas. And definitely going to have this part of her hand being very, very pretty light. So I'm not going to even, I'm just going to just barely add shadow there. Okay. And then I don't feel like that one's going to reach her really either. So I'm just going to do this one like a normal arm. Just a normal arm. All right, and her face. Again, go around the shadows for the hair. Color a little bit under her nose. Around her mouth a little. Under her eye. A little bit right there. Okay, Let's see how we did. I'm gonna try this dark tan. Just to kind of blend those together a little bit better. And then my cream Prismacolor, just to bring the highlights back out a little bit. I'm gonna bring in a little bit of this pinky color for a blush, just a tiny bit. I really want to put some on her lips, but I don't know if that is gonna be a good, oh, that worked. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. All right, I was able to do that, that's good. Add a little pink to our nose. Okay, and then I am gonna sharpen my black really, really sharp so that I can add a little bit of detail to her eye. Okay, that's a really good point. I'm sorry if my head gets in the way. I don't think it will though. And this is just to emphasize her eyes a little bit more. There we go. I would love to put a color in there, but I don't know that that's gonna, I don't know that that's gonna work. So we're just gonna leave it like that, I think. I might darken up some of the shadows just a little bit. And then also I'm gonna use the fairy floss to add a little bit of pink to her shoulder and a little bit to her elbows, because that's what I always do. Okay, I think she turned out all right. Sometimes it's hard when there's little tiny people. There's not a lot of room to do a lot of shading, but you can get a decent look. I'm gonna just darken up one more thing just underneath her hair. I feel like that needs a little bit darker, so I'm gonna make that black. Maybe under that shirt there. There we go. All right, she looks good. Sorry if that was mostly off screen. I just realized that. I'm so sorry. It was just, I think you only missed the hand part, maybe. I hope. Okay, hair. I'm going to use the Ruby Rose and the Fairy Floss and my white. And again, these things need to be pretty sharp because we're working in tiny little detailed areas. So again, I'm not going to make like huge like strands or anything. I'm going to take sections of the hair that I think would be in shadow and make that a little bit darker. And other sections are going to be lighter. And so it's going to be that kind of a... So yeah, this is just going to be me going through the hair and adding some shadows in. So let me go off screen and do that really quick, and I will be right back with you guys. Okay, so here you can kind of see a little bit of the shadows that I've added in, and then I'm just going to blend that out with this Fairy Floss, which is, again, pretty close to that base layer color, so it's not going to do a ton of work. It's just going to blend out that color a little tiny bit, and then I'm going to come in with my white and add in the highlights. So, sorry my fingers are in the way. This is a tiny little pencil now, so I'm just kind of hitting a few spots where I think highlights would be now. So I like this little bit here. So a lot of that, like over here, anywhere where it bumps out that way, that's going to get a little bit of a highlight. Yeah, so it's not super detailed hair, but it's good enough. I might darken it up just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can find a darker, well, let's try the red. See what the red does. What's the red do? No, that's not the right color. Let's try the dark chocolate and see if that gives me the shadow color I'm looking for. That's not bad. Okay, I feel like that works pretty well. Dress is last. I'm going to start with a mix of fairy floss, sherbet, and fudge and see what that does. I feel like I'm probably going to need a darker color at some point, but I just wanted to start with like this color, and then I can go in with darker and lighter bits here in a minute. Okay, I'm going to use the sherbet to kind of so this is, I feel like is going to be a good mix between like the oranges and the pinks that are on the page. She'll have all the colors on her that way. Okay, let's try to blend that out a little bit with this fudge color. Okay, I like that. And I'm going to use the cream, some of the highlighted areas. Yeah, and then I'm definitely coming in with a darker color to do stuff. I'm going to take care of the little sleeves really quick. I'm going to do the outside edge of this part with this sherbet color. And then we'll do the insides with the fairy floss and then the fudge. And then the front of this will just be a little bit of pink here and some fudge. Keep saying fudge, now I want fudge. Okay, I need a shadow color, so, well, let's just stick with the dark chocolate and see if I can get what I want from that. So I'm going to underline this part because that's going to create a shadow there. And then under her arm, and I can always come in with the sherbet or the pink to blend it out just a little bit if I need to. But I feel like that's going to give me the darker color that I need. All right, so I put the brown in all of the little spaces that I want it, blending that out a little bit with the fairy floss, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of the sherbet as well. Since I have it out, I'm going to do a little bit of shadow with the coal. So I feel like the back of her arm is going to create a pretty dramatic shadow. So let's add that. Yeah, I'm going to call it. Okay. Oh, no, I lied. Let me zoom you out a little bit. Okay, so really all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add in some little dots around the lanterns, and then that should be it. So I'm going to do, let's see, let's start with this one just so I know kind of what I want to do. I'm just going to dot just like the light hits like little fairy things. I don't like what happened to that one. There we go. Okay, yep, just gonna do that on all of the lanterns. So I'm gonna make sure that I don't get my hand in the middle of that. So definitely kind of not all around the inside of the lantern, but a lot of it. And then we'll do a few on the outside as well. Not a ton on this part though either. I just like dots, I think. I don't know that this was necessary at all, but I just feel like it adds, I don't know, something a little bit magical to the page. And I am also going to add just a few dots in some of the darker areas around the page as well. So any of these like darker pinky orange areas are going to get some dots. And then one other thing I did want to do is I want to kind of use my white to add a few grass strand, like to the tips of some of these grass strands. I want to add some highlights. Not all of them, just some. Some where I think maybe they get a little bit lost. I want to make sure they're nice and highlighted. Okay, I feel like that is it. That is the end. I know this was a little bit of a longer video, but I really like the way that it ended up turning out. It was a lot of pencil work, a lot more work than I thought it would be, but I do like it. So I've got, you know, several different kinds of lanterns there, the beautiful flowers, the little girl, and of course the tortoise. I think that's my favorite part, is the turtle. So yeah, All right, so there it is. That's the color along for this month. I hope you guys liked it. And if you color along with me, let me know in the comments below or tag me on Instagram. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.